welcome to MBA Now. I'm Rob Van Raphorst. There's been a big move in the real estate finance industry to move to electronic transactions. To do this, states are reviewing their notarial processes and laws to see what changes need to be made. Here to talk about that with us is a Vice President of State Government Affairs and Industry Relations, William Kooper. William, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Rob.
Why don't you sort of describe the landscape for us and then sort of talk about what's happening in the states?
Thanks, Rob. In 2017, we had two states that took very different approaches to permitting remote online notarization. Montana had a very state-specific nexus. Everybody and everything had to be within the state, but they didn't have to be within the same room. In Virginia, by contrast, they had a much more flexible approach. And the difference between these two approaches created two different dynamics. The first was that a lot of states got interested very quickly in what this policy was. And secondly, the legal uncertainty that was created because of this difference in policy was troublesome to our members. The breakthrough came in Texas last year, where a lot of industry stakeholders worked together through the Texas MBA to create a compromise piece of legislation, which gave remote online notarizations the same legal footing as in-person or traditional notarizations.
And I know that after that Texas law was passed, Nevada quickly followed suit. So why don't you explain sort of what happened next, and then why don't you talk about the model that MBA and American Land and Title Association have created to go out to these state legislators and present?
So right after those two new laws were enacted, what MBA tried to do immediately was convene a stakeholders meeting at our offices here in Washington, D.C. to try to resolve how the industry felt about those new laws, and also to prepare for 2018 when we anticipated that a lot of states were going to take up similar legislation. The group of experts consisted of lenders of different business models, title companies, as well as other service providers and stakeholders. And over 2 days, that group of experts produced a series of recommendations. The two most important I'd like to mention today. The first, as you mentioned, is this production of a model piece of legislation that we could go into 2018 with, but based on the law that was enacted in Texas that embraced that compromise. The second relates to the rules that the secretaries of states are instructed in those states to promulgate to implement the new laws, and that relates to data standards. In both cases, we felt that those state secretaries of states ought to receive the expert input from the industry. And so the group recommended that MISMO enact a new working group and convene those experts to talk about the data standards that these secretaries of states would need. And so the MISMO working group started its work back in September, and we released our model bill in December. Along the way, what MBA decided to do is partner with the American Land Title Association and produce a single model legislation. So that model bill and all the ancillary materials to it are co-branded, and we're going out to the states with one uniform approach.
There's no doubt it's a huge effort and very important. Why can't state leaders, though, do this on their own?
They actually can, and they are. And you'd be surprised how fast in January we've already seen a lot of bills come in. What we're hoping for, and what we think is a stronger result, is a uniform set of standards across different states. It would be the worst result to have 50 or more different approaches enacted across the country. And we believe that by using that Texas model to create our model legislation, legislators in other states will have a degree of comfort with what the industry is suggesting, in that our model will look very familiar if they've read the Texas bill.
So what are the next steps?
Well, the next steps really are the campaign. What we're hoping to do through outlets like this and MBA's Newslink is to get the word out to industry participants and those engaged on this issue, but especially both the state and local chapters of the American Land Title Association and MBA. And we're trying to provide them the tools and all of the means by which they can become advocates and engaged in pursuing this uniform model approach. And so what we've done is housed all this material on MBA's website on a new page, www.mba.org/remote online notarization. And you'll be able to download the model bill, talking points, frequently asked questions, and we'll be updating this constantly as industry news develops. So much more to come on all of this.
Yeah, I mean, it's so fascinating. It's certainly our future. You see it in every facet of life. So to talk about it in this regard is just so interesting. We really appreciate you stopping by and walking us through it. And as things develop, please come back.
Thanks for having me.
Be sure to follow us on Twitter at MBA Mortgage and like Mortgage Bankers Association on Facebook and Instagram.